Thanks so much, Bajira. Back here at the caster desk again, I'm Josh Allen, a.k.a. Lore, joined by Elliot Venksel, a.k.a. Venruki. That was an explosive series, shall we say.
Yeah, once again, Juvenile showing how they pretty much dominated this entire tournament. You've got to be scared if you are Tempo Storm or Luminosity waiting. One of these teams, I mean, is going to go up against them in the finals, but ultimately, both of them probably just looking to secure that BlizzCon spot.
Yeah, and looking at the brackets here, we can kind of see that Tempo Storm, Luminosity, that will be the next match we are seeing here. Juveniles going 3-0 versus Follow Esports. They're already in the grand finals. They're already qualified to BlizzCon. They're already guaranteed at least that $20,000 second place prize. Of course, they're going to want to make it to that first place to get that $50,000, and they'll be facing off against the winner of this next series that we're about to play. Of course, Follow Esports not out of it just yet. They're simply dropping down to the third and fourth place match, and the loser of this match will be their opponent there, and whoever wins that will still make it to BlizzCon and get that $10,000.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to this matchup, like we said, Tempo Storm going up against Luminosity. We've seen Tempo Storm basically this entire tournament running RMD, just like Juveniles. Both of them have dominated their groups, so it's going to be very scary for Luminosity going up against this sort of powerhouse setup, and both these RMDs have been playing tremendously, so it's got to be scary for them.
Yes, and of course we do encourage you to follow along on social media. You can follow us on Facebook at Warcraft, Twitter at Warcraft as well, and then on YouTube and Twitch TV. You can find us at Warcraft there. And of course, go ahead, if you're using Twitter, use that hashtag WoW Esports. We've been putting a lot of your tweets up on the screen here. It's great to see so much enthusiasm for WoW Esports coming out of the Twitter community. It's been absolutely fantastic all day. And we do still have that special promo code available on the Blizzard Gear store. You can get 10% off if you go to gear.blizzard.com, put whatever you like in your cart, and then use the promo code WOWRTB15. That will, like I said, get you a sweet 10% discount on everything that's in there. Nice way to save a little cash and get yourself something nice and fluffy and maybe a Zergling or something, I don't know. But you can get yourself something awesome as a result of that.
Get yourself a little treat with that 10% discount. Might as well take advantage of that. So looking at these team lineups, I think we're going to take a look into Luminosity right now. We do have Maldiva. I think this is going to be his first game of this tournament coming in on the Warlock. Yesterday we saw them play against RMD running that Turbo Clue setup, but looks like today they want to switch it up. They're going to bring in Maldiva, and I think they're going to end up running LSD3.
Yeah, it's exciting to see Maldiva coming on. He was saying yesterday, he was like, I'm just going to warm the bench. I'm just going to warm the bench. Best spot for me is on the bench and so on. So it's really, really cool to see him actually coming out here, feeling like maybe we need the Warlock here. Maybe this is a good time for that Warlock power to shine. So I'm really excited to see how that works out. I do believe, like you're saying, that we'll be seeing that LSD3 composition. Again, though, Luminosity, they've been just so consistent through this entire tournament in their play, just constantly able to deal with almost everything that you throw at them. There's only a couple teams that have actually been able to take games off of them. So it's going to be really exciting to see how that works out. Of course, they will be facing off against Team Tempo Storm. We can see they're just getting themselves set up. We will have that's Jamili in the middle there. We've got Peekaboo down at the end and Starship on the other side. These guys have been playing extremely well themselves. Of course, coming into this with that most likely the RMD. Yes, in fact, it will be the RMD setup. We've seen RMD performing incredibly well in this tournament. It's just a very, very strong composition right now, and it makes sense for them to go after it.
Yeah, I know these guys are very well practiced. Peekaboo considered to be one of the best rogues in North America. Jamili also an incredible mage, as well as Starship on Druid. These guys are no joke. They're very well known on the North American ladder and all around the world.
Yeah. So we're going to have to see how they can fare against Luminosity here. Of course, Luminosity, they faced off against Juveniles earlier, which Juveniles, of course, playing RMD, and they lost to that RMD. So we'll have to see how they can, what they can come up with here, and maybe this LSD3 composition they'll be playing, maybe that's the answer to RMD. I feel like that's the question everybody's asking right now is how do you deal with RMD? How do you actually stop the RMD? Because they have so much cross-CC that's available to them, and maybe Luminosity can figure out the answer here.
Yeah, I think Luminosity yesterday, like I was saying, came in a little bit nervous. They didn't play their very best against Juveniles. These guys are all amazing players, but I think they were trying to experiment a little bit too much. And I think if they stick to their guns, I mean, they're not playing Turbo anymore, but they're also very experienced with this setup. And I think this setup can be advantageous, and we might actually see, Maldiva coming out with a different spec. He might not even be playing that Affliction, so the 10% nerf might not even come to effect at all.
Yeah, definitely. There's been a lot of talk lately about demonology, and maybe it's worth going for. You can get some really big demon bolt crits if you get a few stacks of demon bolt up. It can hit really hard, and that can be an amount of burst that maybe Tempo Storm won't be ready for. But we will have to find out if they are able to do that as we are just about to get into this game. It has queued up, and we will be in here very shortly.
It looks like Maldiva is going to be playing that Demonology spec for this game. Both these guys, BlizzCon ticket on the line, Tempo Storm and Luminosity, both going to bring their best into this game. This is going to be exciting. The Demonology Warlock, of course, going to bring a little bit less of that rot pressure, but it has insane burst when you pop that Demon Bowl, or sorry, that Demon Soul, and you get off those high stack Demon Bolts.
Yeah, and Tempo Storm has dealt so well with the rot pressure in the past that I do actually really like the choice to go with a more single target burst focused option here for Team Luminosity. They may be able to say, you know what, we'll just kill somebody. We'll just up and murder one person on their team. Doesn't matter if Starship has too much trouble healing through the rot pressure if he just can't keep one person alive through our burst. So we're going to have to see how they choose to play this out here. It looks like they're immediately actually just going to come over here behind this pillar and start getting down a couple of heals here. They're going to get that gateway down and just watch out for Peekaboo as he's moving in here with that Shroud of Concealment active. Jamili off to the side. Starship now stealthing out to the side as well. This is one of the really frustrating things to deal with in the early game against RMD. They can all three go invisible, and you're just not sure where anybody is. So now Peekaboo moving in here does get the cheap shot onto Vanguards. The deep freeze goes onto Danny Carey. Vanguards with that cheap shot wearing off. They're actually going over onto Maldiva for a second here. Going to put a little bit of damage into him. He got caught behind that pillar, but he's just going to port out of there. Danny Carey is stuck into a Ring of Frost right now, but it's looking like they may actually be able to recover from this opener fairly well. As I say that, though, Maldiva's still taking a lot of damage. Danny Carey caught into a full blind. He's still holding onto his trinket, though. The Metamorphosis comes out from Maldiva. They're trying to turn it around onto Jamili. Jamili actually has to jump out of the way for a second there, and Danny Carey now stuck into this Cyclone, but he still has not used any of his defensive cooldowns. May have to use one here. Maldiva uses the trinket, and the Iron Bark comes out onto Maldiva, and the Nature Swiftness as well. With that offensive Cyclone, though, keeping him at low health, is he going to be able to survive through all of this pressure?
A little bit of a greedy play there by Danny Carey, but it looks like it is going to pay off. The first Demon Soul coming out of Maldiva, though. Starship having to use that Barstian in response. Jamili also in retreat right now, trying to shut down Vanguards the best they can. Vanguard's pushing in, deciding he needs to get it rolling, needs to turn around the pressure. I think Danny Carey did an excellent job there. He does have that Nature's Vigil up right now as Hots are going to be empowered, but here comes the triple CC, the clone on the Vanguards, deep freeze sheep on a Danny Carey. Maldiva in a lot of trouble. Danny Carey having to use that. There is going to be no blind follow-up, but can Maldiva survive the offensive clone coming out from Starship? Maldiva stuck in that, has no trinket available, down to 20% HP, has no heals. The bash on the Danny Carey, this could be the game. Maldiva trying to get away, but he just can't. Peekaboo on his back. But Danny Carey is going to get out of that CC, going to be able to get some heals off onto Maldiva. Another Demon Soul coming in, and Starship having to use that Iron Bark on himself in full retreat. He also has no trinket, so no more healing cooldowns for Starship. So although Luminosity appears to be on the back foot, they are turning it around and actually forcing cooldowns from Tempo Storm.
Yeah, they have actually been able to recover from that fairly well. They put a little bit of pressure into Jamili, and Peekaboo was looking like he was in a scary situation as well. Now trying to keep those Cyclones rolling and keeping that CC up as long as possible on Tempo Storm. They just need to be able to shut down their opportunity to dive in and go for those insane bursts. Maldiva now still having to play under pressure here as Peekaboo is just constantly pushing in here, of course, keeping that Feint active as much as he can because he wants to limit the potential for them to swap over onto him and put a bunch of damage in. Danny Carey doing a great job of hiding out of line of sight as much as possible. He does get rooted here for just a second, but he's going to be able to get out of line of sight and keep those Hots rolling on Maldiva, which is so important with the incredible CC that can come out of the RMD. He needs to have as much healing on him as possible. Now the full Cyclone, and Maldiva could be in a lot of trouble here. Danny Carey has no trinket. If he can get out of that and get the Iron Bark off, and he does just before that second Cyclone comes out, he does get the Iron Bark off onto Maldiva, who is not entirely out of the woods yet, but that was a huge Iron Bark right there.
Because Danny Carey didn't line up his trinket with blind, Peekaboo is going to have blind up before Danny Carey has trinket available, and that could spell the end for the game. I believe it's coming up very, very shortly, so they might be able to capitalize on that and actually finish off Maldiva. Starship able to just sit in the middle of the map, toss out Hots. Really, Luminosity doesn't have too much pressure right now, not able to get too much out. Maldiva being shut down very well by Peekaboo and Jamili, but here comes the Dark Soul. Jamili getting a little bit low, down to 40% HP. The bash on Starship's NS, he does have that available, gets cloned up. Jamili having to use his first block, so Luminosity turning it around and forcing some cooldowns from Tempo Storm.
Yeah, that was Starship's Ironbark as well, so and the Nature Swiftness, so that was a lot of cooldowns forced out from Starship there. Now they're trying once again to go back around onto Maldiva, though. Danny Carey does have his Ironbark coming up in just a second. Ooh, Jamili actually dipping super low. May actually have to use his second Ice Block here. He is actually still on hypothermia. They could have had an opportunity there to score for a kill, but unfortunately looks like he will be able to get healed back up. Unfortunately for Luminosity, I should say. Fortunately for Tempo Storm, he is going to get healed back up. Now the Shadow Dance coming out from Peekaboo. Are they going to be able to put the damage into Maldiva? He does have the Ironbark active, and it looks like he's actually going to be able to get away just fine. And Luminosity actually doing a great job of dealing with Tempo Storm. Now that they've sort of gotten their feet under them a little bit, they're able to start dealing with this incredible pressure from Tempo Storm.
Yeah, Starship does have his trinket. Jamili still has an Ice Block available. Peekaboo has no trinket. They might be able to capitalize on that, but it looks like Jamili is the target of choice. The Chaos Wave is coming in from Maldiva with that Demon Soul. Jamili down to 40% HP, but the very powerful Ironbark coming out from Starship should be able to keep him stabilized, but he Ice Block. I'm not sure. Maybe he was Ice Blocked a Demon Bolt that was coming in.
Yeah, that was a bit suspect on that Ice Block there. It didn't look like he was in that much trouble. Maybe he was just really worried. That does mean, however, that that's his second Ice Block. He will not have his Cold Snap up for another, I want to say about a minute and a half at this point. So it's going to be a while before he'll have those defensive cooldowns available, and this could be what Luminosity needs to turn this back around and start just pumping damage into Tempo Storm and into Jamili. Maldiva may be in a little bit of trouble here. He's trying to get this Metamorphosis going. He's got the Demon Soul up. He's going to try and put out as much damage as possible, but great work from Peekaboo with that Shadow Dance active, keeping him garroted, keeping him unable to really put out the damage that he really wants to, and now he's actually got a port over here out of line of sight, trying to get healed up, but he's out of line of sight from his healer. He could be in a lot of trouble here. Danny Carey caught into that bash. Maldiva caught into the Smoke Bomb, and that's just going to be it. Maldiva is going to go down.
Yeah, the Frozen Orb and the dance coming in from Peekaboo there, able to finish off Maldiva. Danny Carey just couldn't get in line of sight of him. Smoke Bomb as well from Peekaboo, and they were able to just finish him off.
So we have just found out that there was actually a major tech issue towards the end of that match. It was a very, very exciting match, but unfortunately it does mean that we may end up having to replay this match, as it looked like Danny Carey, like part of the reason that Maldiva was caught out in the middle of nowhere is that Danny Carey was actually not able to move at the time. So we may end up seeing this match replayed. We'll have to get complete confirmation of that from our admins. We definitely don't want anybody to get knocked out due to tech issues. That would be extremely unfortunate. So we'll have to find out what exactly happened there. But if that's the sort of play we can expect out of both of these teams, this is going to be a lot closer series than I think a lot of people are expecting.
Yeah, Luminosity had Tempo Storm on the back foot quite a bit, and that's one of the things about Demonology that provides a big advantage is a lot of players don't know how it works. I mean, you can't get that Master Gear on live. A lot of people don't play Warlock to play Demonology, but it is a very powerful spec, and if you are fully geared for Mastery for it, it's amazing. I mean, the damage you do, the burst you can really put out, you can one-shot someone.
Yeah, so we will find out. Yes, in fact, it will be a replay. We are having to swap out one of the computers in there to make sure that everything is working absolutely flawlessly for these teams. There is a lot on the line in this match, so we need to make sure everything's working perfectly. We don't want either, like I was saying, either of these teams to go out on an unfortunate disconnect or PC freeze or anything like that. So we will make sure that we get the best possible equipment in there for them, and we can get them all back up and running. So we can kind of treat that match as sort of a preview of how this series is going to go, I think.
A little teaser, yeah.
A little teaser, yeah. I'm definitely, like, after that match, I'm so excited for this series. I got to be honest, I was a little bit worried coming into this, especially after watching that last series with Juveniles playing RMD. I was like, oh god, are we going to just see the same thing again? But wow, Luminosity did so well just keeping themselves alive and actually looked like they had a real solid chance there.
Yeah, besides Method yesterday against Tempo Storm, this is the first series or the first game I've seen where a team has been able to put RMD on the back foot, turn around the pressure, shut down their CC, and pull it through. I mean, Danny Carey did an excellent job that game, not panicking. He'd get put in CC. He knows he has those Trents out. He pre-Trented a lot of the CC. He knows that it can carry through. It's going to be a little bit scary for him, but he knows once he gets out of that crowd control, he can throw up the Ironbark, throw out the NS, and top someone off. And I think that's one of the things that makes Danny Carey such a great player is he's very cautious with his cooldowns, and he doesn't overuse and he doesn't overreact.
Yep, and just to make sure everybody who's watching is aware, we did have a completely 100% admin confirmed PC crash, just completely froze up. No shenanigans going on here. It actually was a major tech issue, so we're going to get that swapped out. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and head over to the analyst station and hear from Bajira and Brian Halinka.
All right, guys, now Luminosity looking like a little bit of a ray of hope for all the teams who have to face RMD. They brought out Maldiva playing not Affliction like he normally does, but Demonology. And that definitely seemed to catch Tempo Storm off guard a little bit. They seemed a little thrown off. It's weird.
Yeah, it's funny. I think it was yesterday. I was talking to Maldiva in the back, and he said, "What do you think of Demon Bolt?" And I think he was kind of asking me, like, do you think Demon Bolt is broken? And personally, my answer to him was, well, you know, it's something that requires a lot of setup.
Right.
It requires your teammates to work together, and I think as a result, it's a really kind of cool mechanic. And I think it's great that teams can really kind of work around setting up this big play, and if that big play, if they're able to pull it off, then it's a great thing. And I think what we saw there was, you know, with the combination of Demon Bolt and Chaos Wave, they kind of have the burst to counter what RMD has and put them on their back foot.
Yeah, one of the times that I talked to Vanguards, I asked him actually, you know, he's one of the teams, or Luminosity is one of the teams that hasn't changed their roster at all. Even if they were unsuccessful in qualifying for Cup #1 and Cup #2, they stuck with their team. They knew what they were doing, and then they qualified in Cup #3. And I think that part of the reason for that is because they believe in each other.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I think it's easy. And Vanguard's, when I was talking to him this time, he was saying, you know, RMD's tough. There's things that, you know, you just got to do what you got to do. And it made it sound like he was sort of reserved to his fate a little bit. However, it doesn't seem that way.
No.
I think he was holding it a little close to his chest there. He was keeping the Demonology spec secret. And so these guys, they've been playing together for a long time. They know each other well. They have some secret strategies that they may have to bring out in the tournament. And I think that's great to see.
Yeah.
So,
and you were interviewing him.
Yeah.
You right here asked him, and he was like, "No, we're just gonna do what we know. We're gonna do Kerbal Cleave." And in the back of his head, it would be interesting to know whether right there at that moment, he actually thought they were doing Turbo Cleave, and the team had a conversation, or if the whole time he's being a sneaky little quack. Who knows?
That's what's interesting about a tournament environment, especially a tournament like this, is that players step up to the plate. They bring out the strategies that you might not hear about. You know, you hear whispers.
Yep.
Demonology.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
They're not sure if they're going to run it. They say, you know, I've heard, you know, maybe they'll bring out the demo.
And who knows if they were running it in scrims?
That's true.
You know, in war games in the back while people were warming up. It's tough to tell.
Yeah, that was pretty fun in the beginning. It seemed like the players had a lot of camaraderie. The first couple of days, everybody was hanging out, laughing, and then as the days have gone on, as it's gotten a little more serious, they've kept everything a little bit closer to the chest.
Yeah. And that's the value of esports, right? Seeing all these guys come together, exchanging ideas, playing against each other, and kind of like picking each other up throughout the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. So for players out there, you know, esports is an awesome thing. World of Warcraft PvP is a great thing. It's been fun to see a lot of the tweets, people saying, you know, I've never done World of Warcraft PvP, but I can't take my eyes off this tournament. If those people want to get into PvP, what are some suggestions you might have for them?
Yeah, you know, certainly there's a couple different avenues that they can take. For a long time, battlegrounds were a great place to get started because there's a lot of players in a battleground. There's anywhere from 10 to 15 to 40 in all the different battlegrounds, Alterac Valley, Isle of Conquest, Warsong Gulch. There's a good variety. And so even if you yourself are not very experienced in PvP, you can kind of learn from a lot of other people. And then, that allows you to kind of get used to how your class works against other classes before perhaps stepping into skirmishes, which are unrated arenas, or even rated arenas. Because that's kind of a little bit more intense experience where your individual performance has a very big impact on how well you do. So I think that's a pretty good way for somebody to kind of get a step into PvP.
Awesome. And we have been having the exquisite experience of having awesome tournaments like this. We've been talking about the GCD TV series, which is like a weekly thing, and then obviously, big tournaments like this. If players out there want to get involved in WoW esports, how might they be able to do that? How might they be able to get involved or support it?
Well, yourself, Elliot, Venruki, all those guys this year have kind of taken a step into the WoW esports scene, becoming involved specifically through the GCD tournament. And two of our admins, David Hollings and Hannah, they were both two really passionate people who really love World of Warcraft esports, and they wanted to become involved with it. We have something called a spectate mode that allows you to invite two different groups of players to go into an arena, and you can spectate it. And that's kind of been the first step. A great add-on that we're using today called Arena Live by Harold Vadrak-Baum. That's another step you can take if that's something you're good at. And these are big enablers that allow these tournaments to happen, and that's the real way to get in. But I think that the important thing is there's no guide. There's no one way to do it, but it takes a lot of effort. And I think we've seen it in our community. We've seen it in the Heroes of Storms community. people who want to get engaged in esports, they put a lot of their own time and their own effort into it. And a lot of people who, participate in the tournaments, the players, sometimes we don't appreciate how much effort goes into running these tournaments. Like, people are putting hours of their own time, sometimes their own money, into making these tournaments and make them run. So we really have to be thankful and appreciative for all the effort that they put in.
Yeah, just from a personal perspective, I'm somebody who makes videos, who does live streams, and it's great to have so many people be supportive of the community. So stay active on Twitter, stay active on YouTube, stay active on social media, at Warcraft for all of those things. Support WoW Esports, and thanks for watching today. We're going to go ahead and throw it back to the casters, see if we can get these games going for you guys. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Bajira and Brian. Yeah, definitely. I have to agree with what Brian was saying there. It's been so awesome to see how much, and Bajira as well, so awesome to see how much the community has really rallied around WoW Esports since the inclusion of that spectator mode. People like Vadrak making this amazing Arena Live add-on and really upping the game for what the community is capable to produce in terms of WoW Esports. The game's been out for almost 11 years now, and I've never felt better about WoW as an esport.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible as the game goes on. I mean, this year especially with the introduction of GCD TV, they did such an excellent job sort of revitalizing the community, bringing more tournaments more often so that a lot of these players have practice in these tournaments and have an opportunity to play in them and make some money.
Definitely. So just to bring everybody back up to speed in case you've just joined us, we did have a major PC issue, so we are just working on getting that swapped out at the moment. We just went ahead and said, you know what, this one, we're not going to use this one anymore. If fool us once, PC, okay, but fool us twice, and that's shame on us. So we've gone ahead and swapped that out, and we will be getting back into this match here very shortly. The game is actually now active, so it looks like we are just about ready to go.
Yep, we're going to be getting into the exact same game, pretty much. Nagrand Arena Temple Storm against Luminosity. This series determined who is going to go to BlizzCon, and of course the loser will have an opportunity to battle up from the loser's bracket to get that third place ticket, but neither one of these teams wants to lose. There's a lot on the line here, including the BlizzCon tickets, like we said, and a lot of money. Yeah,
it's a minimum of $10,000 that you might minimum $10,000 difference. If you come in third, that's a $10,000 prize, but if you come in second, that's $20,000. And of course, there's still the opportunity that if you come in first, you get that $50,000 grand prize. So even aside from the trip to BlizzCon, these teams still want to be able to move on into the next match. If you win this one, the other thing too is if you win this one, you absolutely 100% have qualified for BlizzCon, whereas if you lose, you still have to fight out in that third place match. So the gates are just about to open here. We will see Luminosity versus Tempo Storm. A little bit of a rematch here, but it's going to be game one of this series.
Yeah, right away, Peekaboo, Jamilian, Starship, all using their stealths to get in and get an ideal opener here. Peekaboo waiting to move in, gets a full sap onto Vanguard. Cheap shot onto Maldiva. Danny Carey just sitting in stealth as long as possible, pops that Iron Bark and throws it as many trends as possible to get some healing onto Maldiva before going into the Deep Sheep. So very well done by him. Knows immediately he's going to be put into crowd control and sort of prevents that damage and gets some healing onto Maldiva.
Yeah, and I really liked how Maldiva was hiding by the other pillar, knowing that his portal was at this one and that his portal was going to be inside that healing mushroom from his healer Danny Carey, so that way as soon as he saw that Danny Carey was in a lot of trouble, he said, okay, I'm just going to port out of here and I will immediately get some healing automatically by having gone over there. It actually looks like Luminosity is doing a great job so far of dealing with this initial pressure. There were a lot of offensive cooldowns, not all of them, but a lot of offensive cooldowns were used already by Tempo Storm, and Luminosity actually just did a great job of dealing with that initial damage.
Yeah, that was the first Demon Soul of Maldiva. Wasn't able to accomplish too much there. Starship still has all his defensive cooldowns available to go, but this RMD is having a very hard time getting something going. Maldiva is down to 60% HP. Danny Carey not in any CC, throws out all three of his strengths, has Maldiva fully hot, and I think he's going to be completely fine for now. Iron Bark is going to be coming up again. Jamili actually getting Iron Bark from Starship there under a lot of pressure. Still does have both those ice blocks available and ready to go, but the way Demonology works is Maldiva is going to be building up his Demonic Fury, and as he gets more and more Demonic Fury, he's going to be able to put out a lot more damage. But Maldiva getting down to 30% HP. Danny Carey into the full Deep Freeze. He does has Trinket, the half kidney ready to go, put into that full blind. He's going to need to Trinket this. Gets put into the triple DR bash, but got that Iron Bark up on Maldiva, and I think because of that, he's going to survive. Starship getting pressured down a lot too. Uses that Bark Skin, Trinket, and NS, so Starship has no more cooldowns remaining, and Maldiva has another Demon Soul available.
Yeah, that was actually a great play there by Danny Carey. Of course, Maldiva now in a lot of trouble, though. Gonna try and get over here out on the side, but Danny Carey caught in that full cyclone. He does not have a trinket available. Maldiva could be in a lot of trouble right here. Catches a heal from somewhere. It must have been Vanguard's actually healing him up there. Now caught into the smoke bomb, and that's just gonna be it. Too much damage coming out from Team Tempo Storm, and so much CC onto Danny Carey. He did such a great job earlier on holding onto his trinket for as long as possible, but unfortunately he had to use way too many cooldowns to survive through stuff, and just was not able to keep his teammate alive any longer. Did not go nearly as well for Luminosity in that match as it did in their initial one, but still, that was looking very, very good for them for quite a while.
Yeah, absolutely, and we are going to go over to some analysis with Bajira and Holinka.
All right, so we saw Luminosity struggling in that matchup against Tempo Storm's RMD, and I'm wondering, since that was a replayed match, I'm wondering if they sort of maybe lost some of the surprise that they had from bringing out the Demonology Warlock.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was almost like, well, we've practiced this now, right? Like they kind of spent a lot of time. They kind of figured out what they wanted to do, and now they talked about it during that kind of outage, and they went out and they just executed it.
Yeah, because like Venruki was saying, you know, Demonology Warlock, what their idea is to build up tons of Demonic Fury and then dump that as tons and tons of damage against the enemy team. But, you know, if the RMD is ready for that and if they're capable of locking them down, you know, it's just a matter of an adaptation for them. And they definitely seemed to have adapted to the Demonology strategy. So the question now is, you know, are they going to have to change it up, Luminosity?
Yeah, I mean, looking at that last clip, you kind of saw that Danny Carey got caught in a Powie that turned into a Cyclone, and they put a Groat. So it could just be that that's one moment where he just didn't get into Bear to beat that Powie, and it might have been something that if he had, perhaps it would have just changed the course of that match. So those are those like one little second details that if they make it happen correctly, it could turn into a win for them.
Yeah, that's an optimistic approach, and I like that.
I'm an optimistic guy, Jackson.
All right, let's see if that is indeed the case in this next matchup.
Thanks so much, guys, and we are just about to get into this second game here. It's actually going to be on Tolvaron Arena, which is an interesting choice coming out of Luminosity. They've chosen to stick with the same composition, with that Demonology Warlock still, and they will be going up against that RMD of Tempo Storm once again. So basically the same game, but we will have to see how well this is able to work out here.
Yeah, absolutely. Tempo Storm taking first blood in this matchup, 2 games away from qualifying for BlizzCon, and of course that $10,000 like you were saying. So looking forward to this matchup. Tolvaron Arena is going to provide Maldiva, Vanguards, and Danny Carey a little bit more room to pull back. Peekaboo, Jamilian, Starship still probably going to be dictating the pace of this game. If they can land their crowd control on point, then everything will go forward, but the gates have opened. Peekaboo already pushing in. Jamili is in that invisibility right now. Starship in stealth. Peekaboo looking to get that opener, the Shroud of Concealment coming out, delaying the opener a little bit longer. Sap going out onto Vanguard, cheap shot onto Maldiva, and he is the target of choice once again. Maldiva doing the exact same strategy, or sorry, Danny Carey doing the exact same strategy, throwing out that Iron Bark and triple trend switch. Starship getting pressure down right away, having to use Bark Skin as well as Iron Bark immediately on himself, so well done by Luminosity to force some cooldowns onto Tempo Storm.
Yep. Just as a quick aside, we recognize that the score is actually wrong. It is actually Tempo Storm that's up 1-0 versus Luminosity. We're not quite sure how to actually switch that around yet, but we will get that figured out here as soon as possible. But it is 1 game up for Tempo Storm. Luminosity is actually down one game in this series. But anyway, getting back into this game, Danny Carey now getting caught into a whole bunch of CC over here. Maldiva just having to run for his life, and this is why Tolvaron, I think, is such a great choice. With these much larger pillars, it actually gives him a lot more opportunity to get out of the way and look off to the side like this.
Yeah, Peekaboo taking a little bit of pressure right now. The full Cyclone going out onto Vanguard. Excellent job by Starship, Jamili, and Peekaboo to put out that crowd control right away. Peekaboo caught into a full clone by Danny Carey, so both Druids doing an excellent job throwing out that crowd control this game. Jamili in the middle of the map, sort of turning out some damage, building up those icicles. Maldiva popping that Demon Soul, trying to get out some pressure onto Peekaboo. They're actually swapping over onto him, but Starship doing a great job throwing out that Iron Bark. And I mean, if we look at the cooldowns, Danny Carey and Starship both have their trinket available and ready to go. The off kitty going on to Danny Carey if Jamili can get that follow-up polymorph, but Peekaboo actually sapping out of his kidney shot. Well done by him. Maldiva doing a good job kiting around from Peekaboo, so they weren't able to actually get that much damage out onto him.
Yeah, Maldiva looking like he may be in a lot of trouble here. Danny Carey now getting caught into that polymorph. It's only a short one, though. He may actually be able to just survive through this, get some hots back up. Maldiva caught into that full kidney shot, but it doesn't actually look like it matters because the CC is just not there onto Danny Carey right now. A great cross cyclone onto Starship, preventing those cyclones from coming out, as well as that stun from the pet of Maldiva, which is a great, I don't know that we've talked about it too much yet, but that's a great way to help diffuse the CC chain from the RMD, is that when everyone on Luminosity is CC'd, even if the pet is still out, he can throw out a stun and trip up Tempo Storm. So it's going to be really interesting to see if they can continue to use that as this match continues. Of course, Danny Carey right now stuck into a very long deep freeze. Maldiva now into this kidney shot, could be in a lot of trouble. The blind comes out onto Danny Carey, trinkets that immediately. Maldiva just taking so much damage right now, but they're able to hang on to so many defensive cooldowns, and now they're trying to turn it back around. The smoke bomb comes out from Peekaboo. They're trying to put some damage into, I'm not actually sure who exactly they're going after at the moment. Maybe Peekaboo. Peekaboo with that Shadow Dance active, but he does get rooted right away, which is going to slow that down a little bit. Now the Iron Bark comes out onto Maldiva. Danny Carey into that full stun, followed up by a polymorph. Maldiva could be in some trouble here as that full cyclone comes out as well. He's trying to get over here out of line of sight, just trying to get away. Does get a nice Shadow Fury off, and that Shadow Fury was huge right there, shutting down the offensive pressure from both Jamili and Peekaboo, and Jamili has to ice block.
Yeah, the first ice block coming out of Jamili. Starship still doesn't have that trinket up for another 16 seconds. That smoke bomb earlier actually saving Starship's life. It was a defensive smoke bomb onto Starship. Maldiva still in a lot of trouble, though. Danny Carey into that full polymorph. This could just be the game. They want to finish it off, get up 2-0 in this series, but Maldiva doing an excellent job kiting. Danny Carey gets out of some CC for a second, caught into that full deep freeze. This might just be the game. The full cyclone comes out. Maldiva cannot get away. He's trying to counter pressure the best he can. The gouge comes out on that Demon Bolt, but somehow, some way, with the off heels of Vanguards, Maldiva survives for now. The Demon Soul coming out onto Starship, but the kidney shot on Maldiva is going to shut down that damage, and Starship is going to be able to retreat and heal himself up.
Yeah, absolute hero move there by Vanguards, getting some extremely important, like, game-saving heals out onto Maldiva, just long enough for that CC chain to finish up on Danny Carey, and he managed to get the Iron Bark out onto him. Now looking like Jamili may be in some trouble over here. He's caught into these offensive cyclones, keeping him from getting those heals from Starship. Unfortunately, they do not have the follow-up CC onto Starship, so he's going to be able to get out of there, catch some heals, and get caught back up again. But in the meantime, Maldiva is getting these Demon Bolts off. He gets locked on his cast of that Demon Bolt. It looked like he had actually a really scary one on the way there for just a second, and that was a well-timed lock on that. And now the kidney shot onto Danny Carey, silence onto Maldiva, Ring of Frost onto Danny Carey. Maldiva could be in a lot of trouble here. He actually gets caught into the Ring of Frost himself by porting over, but that gets him out of line of sight just enough for Danny Carey to get a few more all-important heals off.
Yeah, Peekaboo is going to have his blind up. Danny Carey did trinket the last blind, and now that he's trinketed not the blind, he's going to have that available. So the next CC chain could be devastating for Danny Carey if he gets deep froze into a sheep, into a blind. They'll have a lot of time and a lot of opportunity to put damage out onto Maldiva. Jamili, though, taking a little bit of pressure, getting healed up by Starship quite easily. If we look at the mana of both of these healers, Danny Carey at around 65% mana, Starship at 33%, but the Axe Toss going out onto Jamili. Full Fear onto Starship. They might be able to force another block here out of Jamili. Danny Carey throwing out that preemptive ice block onto Maldiva, to prevent some of that incoming damage. Maldiva doing everything he can right now to build up those Demon Bolt stacks, and if he gets them high enough with that Demon Soul, they might be able to kill. There's the full blind, though, onto Danny Carey. Maldiva caught into that full kidney. Vanguard's caught into a polymorph. He trinkets. He needs to help his team survive this moment. Danny Carey caught into the sap out of that. There's a lot of CC, though, coming out from Temple Storm onto Danny Carey. Maldiva down to 40% HP, pops his heals. Danny Carey able to get that NS off as well. That was the Nature's Vigil, so Maldiva might be able to survive, but at what cost?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of cooldowns used there to keep Maldiva alive, but now he's turning it around, trying to get these Demon Bolts off. He's been trying to cast them all game and just constantly getting locked, and now he's out of that Metamorphosis form, going right back into it, trying to get the Demon Bolts off yet again, but the stun comes out, and now he's caught into that Smoke Bomb. Can he keep up this pressure? They're doing an amazing job of keeping him alive through all of this damage coming out from Tempo Storm, but how long can they keep it up? He's jumping away in that Metamorphosis form, just doing his best to continue kiting as long as they possibly can, and it's kind of working for them. They've had a few opportunities so far to be able to maybe try and turn it around a little bit. Unfortunately, Jamili now has both of his ice blocks available yet again, so they're going to have to work through a lot of defensive cooldowns on Tempo Storm if they want to be able to score a kill.
Yeah, Jamili pushing in with a deep freeze sheep onto Danny Carey. Maldiva caught into that kidney shot. This is a full polymorph. Danny Carey trinkets the second it comes up and throws that Iron Bark out onto Maldiva. He might end up surviving this. I don't think they're going to have any more CC for Danny Carey, but now he doesn't have trinkets for another full 2 minutes. And like we said, Peekaboo does have that blind available. They're going to have that extra long CC chain that Danny Carey isn't going to be able to get out of. But Maldiva pops that Demon Soul, gets full polymorphed on it. Well done by Jamili, trying to control that Demon Soul the best he can. Peekaboo has that Iron Bark right now. Starship just pulling back in full retreat. They know they're not going to get a kill with this setup. They're just waiting, ready to go for the next Deep Freeze. And there it is, the full Deep Freeze onto Danny Carey. Gets the full Ring of Frost. Maldiva in a lot of trouble. He has no heals available. All he has is Trinket, but I don't think it's going to be enough. We could see some follow-up CC onto Danny Carey. Maldiva down to 5% HP. The DR Gouge coming out onto Danny Carey. Maldiva somehow alive. The NS coming out from Danny Carey onto Maldiva. Danny Carey gets fully cloned though by Starship, and Maldiva's going to go down. And Temple Storm is going to take Game 2 up 2-0 in this series, just 1 away from qualifying for BlizzCon.
Yeah, I mean, that was an incredible job by Luminosity, just living as long as they did through that matchup of Vanguards and Danny Carey. They're playing it out. No, they're just going to go ahead and drop. Okay, so that is going to be the end of that game, putting Tempo Storm up 2-0. There's just so much to have to deal with versus this team, and just being able to keep your teammates alive. And they were doing an incredible job for so long through all of that. Those hero heals coming out from Vanguards, keeping his teammate alive for as long as he did. Unfortunately, it got to be too much, and they just couldn't hold on any longer.
Yeah, although they had a lot of pressure. I mean, Starship, Peekaboo, and Jamili all had their cooldowns ready to go. But we're going to go over to Bajira for some analysis of that game.
All right, guys, in that last match, we saw Tempo Storm sort of change their playstyle just a little bit, in my opinion. They're usually a very hyper-aggressive RMD, sometimes opting not to cross CC as much in favor of just dealing raw damage. And this game, it seemed like they played a little bit more cautiously, a little bit more slow, steady grind RMD, because they definitely gave respect to that Demonology Warlock. And there were times when that Metamorphosis came out, sort of dropping the Chaos Waves down and forced some cooldowns out of Tempo Storm, which is something that you might not expect to see. However, in the end, all the little CC added up. That instead of cross CCing as much as they absolutely can, they just dumped as much CC on a Danny Carey as they could and ended up scoring the kill there. Yeah,
Luminosity, you have to give them a lot of credit. They really held on there for a long time, and I think they're basically playing as well as you could against this team, right? And at some point, they just kind of, a mistake was bound to happen, and in the end, they were going to lose. But they really played it as excellent. You saw every time that one of those CCs came out on Danny Carey, Vanguards just started spamming healing surges. Maldiva was using Demonic Leap to kite and then port back. There's a lot of tricks they were using to stay alive, and it was going well, but ultimately, you just run out of tricks eventually.
Right, and I think that changing up your comp, it does show a lot of heads-up play. That you have to imagine that if they're bringing this out in the tournament, it's something that they've practiced, and it looked like it. It didn't look like they just brought out some random spec like, oh hey, I hear Demo does damage, gave it a try and just kind of flopped. No, they played it well and they played it defensively, and I think that they held on a really long time because of, like you mentioned, the heads-up off-healing from Vanguards. And when we see the lack of cross CC from Tempo Storm, it allows that enhancement shaman to really shine. And just there at the end, we got a brief glimpse at the players. It seemed like they were going to be swapping out Maldiva.
Yeah, it looked like Maldiva stood up right away, right?
Yeah, so it was a valiant effort, but they might be bringing in Turbo Cleave. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, this is the comp that they've run a lot of. I think it was smart of them to take Demonology because, as you could see, sometimes Demonology put out a whole lot of damage, and there are, Jamili is known as a very offensive mage. He often will block offensively. And maybe you can catch him in a mistake. Sure. And maybe if your Demon Bolts and your Chaos Waves lined up, you can get a full big shot. And chances are you could win. So I think it was worth a try for them. They kind of know Turbo Cleave a little bit better, but the RMD also plays against a lot of Turbo Cleaves. So it's kind of a questionable call. I don't know whether you keep doing that, demo comp and just hoping that what you thought was going to happen will happen, or you have to just change it up. So it might be a desperation play here.
Yeah, it's the kind of the idea of where sometimes you got to bring out a strategy that might be a little bit unique, a little bit something that they may not have expected. But when you go down 0-2, you kind of have to bring back out your bread and butter.
They've figured it out at this point, right?
The surprise seemed to have been lost in that first game, if not the second game. So what we're going to do now is throw it back to the casters and get ready for this last match that may decide who moves on into the finals.
Well, we don't know if it's the last match.
Well, it might be. It might be. Ever the optimist. Back to the casters.
Thank you so much, Bajir and Halinka, for that analysis. And I couldn't agree more. I think perhaps switching back to their guns, going with that Turbo Cleave, something they're a little bit more comfortable with. I mean, Temple Storm did such an excellent job shutting down Maldiva, not letting him build up those Demon Bolt stacks. And I think a lot of the time when Demonology works, it's because people don't really know what it does. Once you know what it does, you're scared of Demon Soul, you're scared of the Demon Bolt stacks, and you can shut that down. It's really not the most effective spec.
Yeah, it has a lot of the same sort of issues that Destruction does, and even like specs like Fire Mage or anything like that. Like if you know to dispel combustion or purge hot streak procs, then Fire is not nearly as effective. If you know to watch for the Chaos Bolts and lock those down, then it's not as effective. So it's definitely worth the try. Absolutely, 1,000% worth the try. But I definitely think that now that you're two games down in the series, you kind of makes sense to go, okay, well let's try something else. Let's do something else. Let's go back to what we're most comfortable with. Go to the comp that got us here and see how well we can do against this RMD with that.
Yeah, and although Luminosity was sometimes able to push Temple Storm back on that last game, really they weren't in that much trouble. I mean, Jamili always had an ice block ready to go. Starship was never really scared without his trinket. Peekaboo always had his defensive cooldown. So although they were causing pressure, there was never really an opportunity for them to land a kill like at a concrete time.
Yep. We do have our map and spec choices in, and actually it looks like they're actually sticking with the Demonology Warlock. We're going to be going to Dalaran Sewers as Luminosity's choice, and Maldiva is still in the game, and he is still playing Demonology. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they feel like maybe this map will make the difference for them. I definitely feel like in the first game on Nagrand, that the very first one that we played, it felt like they were kind of starting to figure them out. They were kind of starting to go, okay, this is how we can deal with them. This is how we can deal with this. And there was a few spots on that last match on Tolvaron as well, where like the Wrathguard stun was so important and was able to take apart Tempo Storm, wanting to line up all of their CCs. So it's an interesting choice now to come here onto Dalaran Sewers, which is like the polar opposite of Tolvaron in terms of map design. This is a much smaller, much more compacted map. So we'll have to see if this choice works out for them.
A key part of this match that's going to be different than the rest is Maldiva actually changed his spec. He's now playing Howl of Terror, kind of an unconventional spec, but he doesn't really need the Shadow Fury. Every time he wants to get those casts off now, he can just Howl of Terror, the Rogan Mage, especially on a smaller map like this, and it might free him up. Like right away, Peekaboo and Jamili both getting Howl of Terror. Jamili trinketed, Starship able to dispel Peekaboo, but they're already able to get out some pressure right away with that instant cast Fear, and that might make a big difference in this matchup.
Yeah, they've actually already pulled out the Iron Bark from Starship onto Jamili. They're able to put a little bit of pressure onto him right away. No cooldowns yet used for Luminosity. However, Maldiva is taking a lot of damage right now. He does get stuck into that offensive Cyclone. It's going to keep him at low health and prevent him from getting healed. Now a follow-up Cyclone onto him. Danny Carey caught into that Deep Freeze, and the Smoke Bomb goes down as well. Maldiva could be in some trouble here. We may see some cooldowns coming out from Danny Carey. Maldiva just jumping over to him, getting stuck into that Garrote. Danny Carey in that Ring of Frost as well. He does actually use his trinket there, as well as now the Iron Bark is coming out onto Maldiva, so that is several cooldowns. Ooh, he actually used the Nature Swiftness as well. That's several cooldowns that have now come out from Danny Carey, which is not how they want to start out this game.
Yeah, Maldiva also used his Dark Regen, so they're basically operating on no defensive cooldowns whatsoever, and I'm pretty sure Peekaboo still has his blind available. Starship, Jamili actually used an offensive block there, so already down one block, but he knows they can go offensive. This is the full Deep Sheep onto Danny Carey. Maldiva could be in a lot of trouble. Temple Storm wants to win this game. This is the game that's going to carry them forward to BlizzCon. Maldiva trying to escape, trying to do anything he can. Down to 15% HP. The DR Bash, though, going out onto Danny Carey. Maldiva doing an excellent job surviving, but the full Garrote and the full clone, and that's going to be the game. Temple Storm's going to take it. They're going to BlizzCon, and Luminosity has gone down to the losers bracket where they have to fight for their lives.
Yeah, they will be going down to the 3rd and 4th place match, where they will be facing off against Follow Esports, and that's going to be a super exciting series. But congratulations to Tempo Storm, taking this series 3-0 and just looking so strong, playing their RMD composition so well and getting those perfect CC chains. Like, it's easy to look at the best players in the game and say, oh, RMD, 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 and it's possibly true that maybe RMD is really, really strong at the moment. But at the same time, you have to at least give them the recognition of how well they played this comp.
Yeah, it's definitely possible RMD is strong, but like you said, these players are amazing. They're not just winning because they're RMD. They're all very good at their classes, and we're going to go over to Bajir and Halinka with some post-game analysis.
All right, so they actually did not decide to swap comps at all. But even though they go down there, that is not the last of Luminosity that we will see in this tournament.
Yep.
They will still have a chance to play their way to BlizzCon, but you got to know that Tempo Storm is pretty happy with their performance there.
Yeah, they looked good there. You know, obviously Jamili, one of the most energetic players here at the tournament, looks like he's pretty thrilled. Congratulations to Tempo Storm. They played great. All of them are pretty, happy to be here, and I know they're going to be thrilled to go to BlizzCon. So.
Yeah, it seemed like that last match was, Tempo Storm's like, guys, we got you figured out.
Yeah.
We got your number. And we're going to use you to punch our ticket to BlizzCon. So they are definitely locked in for the finals now. And we'll be playing for their grand prize here a little bit later today. And we actually might be able to talk with them here in a bit if they'll swing on out here pretty soon. But before we do that, we're going to throw it back to the casters and hear from Tempo Storm soon.
Thanks so much, guys. We will be getting that winner's interview for you here very, very shortly. But yeah, just looking back at that match again, that last one, I kind of feel like maybe Luminosity in that case was just kind of going, okay, well, maybe they're already looking ahead and saying we'll beat Follow Esports. That's their plan at this point. Is we're gonna lose to this team. They've figured us out. They know how to take us apart. They know what to do to win us. Maybe their thought at that point is let's take a chill pill for a second here, and we'll come back and have our best for Follow Esports. And good call to them if that's the case. Like it makes perfect sense strategically. But that does mean that our second team to have qualified to BlizzCon is going to be Tempo Storm.
Yeah, and that also means we're going to have some very exciting RMD mirrors in the finals to see who actually wins this entire tournament. We're going to have Team Juvenile up against Tempo Storm, and that is going to be a match you do not want to miss. You are not going to want to miss. We also have an winner's interview ready with Bajira.
All right, guys, I am joined by none other than Elite and Jamili of the successful Tempo Storm team. You guys are going to BlizzCon. How does that feel?
Yeah.
You guys pretty pumped? And you also secured yourself a little bit of cash money to be determined exactly how much a little bit later today. So were you guys surprised at all by the Demonology Warlock?
We were kind of expecting a little bit because after we played so many games of RMD and all of the games that we went with Turbo, I'm pretty sure they were convinced that they really didn't have a chance as Turbo. So as soon as we saw Demonology Warlock, we were kind of expecting a little bit. It was change of pace, obviously, but we were ready for it.
Yeah, so Jamili, how did that change your playstyle at all, if any?
It didn't really change. I really just had to get the triple CC. It didn't change much.
So
just had to execute.
Yeah, you a few times, when they started dropping the Chaos Waves.
We had to be, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. We just had to be careful of the demon bolts. So
yeah, and the Chaos Waves. It seemed like you're using Ice Block like a little early, just not taking any chances there.
I did that once, yeah.
Yeah, not saving it for the Ice Blocking CC as usual, right?
Yeah, well, I did that a couple times too, actually.
Excellent. We got to get those textbook signature moves in there. Well, awesome. So congratulations, you guys.
Thank you.
We're gonna be moving on to BlizzCon now, but also to the finals.
Yeah.
We're definitely shaping up to be an R&D here in the finals. Is that what you guys are gonna plan on doing?
Yeah.
We could probably come, but
yeah, we're thinking about the RMD mirror. Yeah, we're probably gonna play that out. If things just get too rough, we have the option of pulling out Pally.com if we need it.
You're shaking your head, Jamili. You don't think so? You don't think you'll need that?
We're thinking RMD all the way.
Okay, awesome. Well, you guys are doing a great job so far. Definitely some characters in the tournament. I like that. We're gonna throw it to a quick break and be back very, very soon. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you.